Proceed before council. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. You had an extra minute there while I didn't turn my mic on. Welcome to this meeting with the full council, and my name is Sue Wilson, Chairman of the Council, and I'll be chairing the meeting this evening. So I'd like to welcome all of you that are here tonight. This meeting is being webcasted and will be broadcast through the Council's YouTube channel. The meeting is taking place via a hybrid platform, which most members are present in the chambers, but there are also members, council officers and members of the public who have registered for public question time who have joined the meeting on Zoom, and I'm being assisted by a governance officer to help manage the chat function. And those members attending the meeting via Zoom were able to participate in the debate of any item before the council this evening. However, they are not allowed to vote. Only those members present in the chamber this evening can vote on any item. If you wish to speak, can you please indicate by raising your hand? Those members who are joining the meeting via Zoom, please indicate on the chat function. For your safety and for those around you, members are requested to remain seated when speaking on any item under consideration tonight. This meeting is scheduled for 3 hours, and I would be very grateful if everyone could ensure that they keep their speeches concise and to the issues being considered. We're not expecting a fire alarm. However, in the event of an alarm, please leave via the fire exits and assemble in the car park. Can I also remind everyone to ensure that they have their mobile phones switched to silent? Before we proceed with the first item of business, I would like to highlight that there is an addendum report in respect of agenda item 7, changes to the Appointments Committee, which we'll be referring to. The addendum report was circulated to members prior to the meeting and replaces the public report that was published with the council agenda. So now we go to apologies of absence. We have received apologies of absence from Councillor Dean Wallace, Ian Pritchard, John Bohr, Michelle Weeks, Nick Unsworth, Paul Thorogood, Darren White, and Councillor Radley. I don't know. Does anyone know anyone else? No? No? Members, before moving on to the next items, I would like to advise that the following members are joining this meeting virtually: Councillor Bowers, Councillor Horner, Councillor Hume, Councillor Mrs. Pell, Councillor Mrs. Scattergood and Councillor Mrs. Schmidt. As I already advised, the aforementioned members can participate in the debate this evening, but they can't vote. Do any members have any disclosable pecuniary interest or other pecuniary interest or non-pecuniary interest that they wish to declare this evening? If so, can you please state the item and the nature of your interest? Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Non-pecuniary interest. As a member of Rivenall Parish Council, I wish to ask a question in item 9 that in part relates to the Parish Council.
Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In relation to item 9, Cabinet reports on planning, there's going to be a reference to the Integrated Waste Management Facility. Just for transparency, I'd like to mention that I'm a member of the PAIN campaign group.
Right. Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I declare a non-pecuniary interest as a member of Essex County Council, which is referred to in a number of papers.
Okay. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Could I also declare a non-pecuniary interest as a member of Essex County Council? Thank you.
Councillor Shreer.
Can I also declare an interest, an MPI as a member of County Council?
Right. I'm looking around. Pardon? No. Minutes of the previous meeting. Please can I have a proposer to approve the minutes as an accurate record of the meeting of full council held on the 21st of February 2022. Councillor Rose. And can I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. The minutes have been moved and seconded as an accurate record. All those in favour, please indicate. Yeah. The minutes are approved. Public question time. Before we begin, can I check that the Governance Officer has submitted the speakers for this evening to the meeting from the waiting room?
Yes, Chairman. Mr Mackenzie and Mr Losses are both in the virtual chamber. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to start by welcoming all the public speakers to the meeting and ask that you keep your microphones switched to silent until I ask you to speak. Members of the public are advised that the chat function is for council officers and councillors attending this meeting. Any registered speaker using the chat function to communicate with councillors, officers or other registered speakers will be removed from the meeting without notice. Members, we have 2 registered speakers for this evening's meeting who would like to ask questions relating to Wethersfield Airfield. Registered speakers have 3 minutes each to make their statements, and a warning bell will be sounded at the expiry of the 3 minutes, and the registered speaker must cease speaking at that time if they've not already done so. Once each speaker has finished making their statement, please can I remind them to mute their microphones. Please can I remind the speakers that they have no right of reply. And our first speaker for this evening is Mr Alan Mackenzie. Mr Kenzie, please unmute your microphone and you have 3 minutes to make your statement.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would like to ask in relation to Cushman & Wakefield's scoping opinion letter concerning the Wethersfield Airfield mega prisons proposal and the reply. Why is the Blackwater catchment area not scoped in for consideration? About 1/3 of the proposed prison development impinges on this catchment area relating to the Pant water body. As you will know, the River Pant takes drinking water from the Ely Ouse water transport system, ending up in the Abberton and Hanningfield reservoirs, providing well over 1 million Essex residents with water. The environmental impact assessment is going to consider the Bourne Brook water body, but not the far more important Pant water body. Why is this? And this is yet another consideration which was not taken into account when Councillor Butland had the Planning Department reply to the Ministry of Justice's request for prison sites. And when Councillors Butland, Tattersley and Santamoro visited Three Fields Parish Councillors in September 2021 and apparently implied that the prisons were a done deal, they were saying that the parishes should look to get the best they can out of a Section 106 agreement. Did that reflect that the councillors were already in favour and promoting the prisons proposal? Of course, Section 106 agreements are used to mitigate an unacceptable development in planning terms. In layman's terms, they might be called something else. When shortly afterwards, Councillor Tattersley emailed councillors, the planning department, and met with the Ministry of Justice, why did he say that the parish councils were in favour of the proposed development? It is evident now that 11 parish councils, which have joined together to form the Wethersfield Airbase Scrutiny Committee, Castle Hedingham has recently joined, are not in favour of the prisons proposal. Amongst those parishes, of course, are Wethersfield, Finchingfield, Great Bardfield, Shalford and Panfield, which form 3 fields. It is worth noting that SWAP, with the assistance of many of these parishes, is in the process of distributing 7,000, that's 7,000, information leaflets about the mega prisons proposal to homes in those parishes. That is considerably more than the MOJ's paltry 1,600 letters, which they sent out in their inadequate pre-consultation process. Given Councillor Butland supported the ill-advised and ill-fated West of Braintree Garden Community Project, which cost taxpayers over £1 million, much to the angst of local people,
Excuse
he's
me,
shown
Mr. Mackenzie, you have had your 3 minutes. Are you nearly finished?
Yep, very nearly. He has shown an attitude for concreting over massive swathes of the beautiful North Essex countryside, not least of all with the latest prisons proposal in 3 fields. He and the other 3 fields councillors have shown an astonishing attitude towards the destruction of the environment, a lack of empathy, and complete misunderstanding of what is important to people who live in the countryside in 3 fields. And whilst one has to have great respect for those who put themselves forward to represent the community, when what those representatives seem to believe diverges so far from their community, they should resign in order to find replacements who actually care about the countryside and the environment and seek to preserve it for future generations.
I am going to have to ask.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Butland, did you wish to speak?
I certainly do, Madam Chairman. Before I deal with the actual issue, can I just say to the Speaker that I am incredibly fed up with the misinformation and lies that he is putting about. As regards the parish councils, if he attended as many of the parish council meetings that the local councillors do, he would have a better understanding of their views. And I would say the majority of them are waiting to see, one, if a planning application comes in, and secondly, when that planning application is received, what it means locally. I also refute entirely, and I may well consider taking legal advice on this, that I at any time have said that I am in favour of the prison. I have made 2 statements. One, that there is a pro, and that is the possibility of 1,100 jobs, but at the same time that I felt the real problem would be highways access, which would be an issue which would need to be decided. And I have to say, Madam Chairman, that I think Mr. Mackenzie, quite frankly, is taking this council for a ride on the way he is using this. I'll now deal with the particular question which he gave notice of, and that is the EIA. Madam Chairman, the Council has appointed expert external consultants who have spent considerable time in assessing and responding to the EIA scoping request. This is published in full on our website, all 90 pages. The Council has confirmed in its response that it requires an environmental statement to accompany any future planning application. The Council also reserves its right, in paragraph 1.2.4, to request further information if required at any future stage. It should also be noted, Madam Chairman, that both the Environment Agency and Natural England were also consulted on the EIA scoping document, and their comments to it are also published on the Council's website. In assessing water resources and flood risk, our response also makes clear that we expect detailed consultation to be held with the Environment Agency, Anglia Water, Natural England and others to ensure that their requirements and concerns are fully considered in any future planning application. And I would advise the Speaker perhaps to read that which is on the website. If a planning application is submitted, Madam Chairman, then all local residents and statutory consultees will be able to consider the detailed information that has been submitted in support of it, including the environmental statement. and provide comments on the suitability of the supporting information and the development proposal being proposed. These comments, once received, will be considered by officers and members in coming to a view on the merits of any future planning application, if one is submitted. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mr. Nicholas Loftus. Mr. Loftus, please unmute your microphone and you have 3 minutes to make your statement.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Thank you.
The question I posted was, has the Council noted the campaign to protect rural England's position statement on RAF Wethersfield, which they made after visiting the site? Among a number of points, it states, the scale of the Wethersfield prison proposals is alarming and hugely unwelcome in this very scenic part of the county, with its valued landscape and historic villages. The location of a prison in such a rural setting is inappropriate, and because the site is open, exposed and relatively high, 95 metres above sea level, it would be visible for miles around. This would impact adversely on the amenity of local residents and is particularly pertinent given the brutal design, height and mass of the prisoner blocks. The CPRE go on to say that it would introduce significant light pollution and, as everyone knows, that the local road system is inadequate for the proposal. The CPRE also highlights concerns over water supply, as Essex is a very dry county and supplies of water are already stretched. I know this point's been referred to earlier. They further emphasise there is widespread concern over the impact of the proposals on local biodiversity. The CPRE goes on to express their preference for the airfield to return to the use it had before the Second World War. That is for agricultural purposes, especially as it lies surrounded by Grade 2, which is very good quality land. Alternatively, if the cost of reinstatement is prohibitive, a mixed-use country park and leisure scheme might be appropriate. This would allow the preservation of some of the structures built during the Cold War period, which are of historic interest, and it could also provide opportunities for active leisure pursuits, such as cycling, walking, bird watching. This is something that the local community does very much support. Given the scale of the proposed prison development, as identified in the Ministry of Justice's scoping request dated the 12th of November 2021, does the Council now regret the response that they made to the letter from the Ministry of Justice dated the 2nd of February, and in which response they identified Wethersfield Airfield site as an area suitable for a new prison? I appreciate there is a lot for the Council to consider in the very forthright report from the CPRE, and I do not expect an immediate response tonight, but I do look forward to a considered and full written reply that deals with the numerous points raised by the Campaign to Protect Rural England in their position statement. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Loftus, for your statement. Just perfect timing. Councillor Butler, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, in response to Mr. Loftus, the Council is aware of the CPRE statement, which was published on their website in January 2022, regarding their views on the future acceptable uses of Wethersfield Air Base. If a planning application is submitted to this authority for redevelopment of the Wethersfield Air Base site, then CPRE Essex, like all other residents and interested parties, will be able to consider in detail all the information which the applicant submits to support their application and submit their comments in reply. These comments, once received, will be received by officers and members in due course when making a decision on any planning application, if such a planning application is received. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to both the speakers for speaking on these subjects. And you're completely welcome to continue watching the remainder of the meeting on the Council's YouTube channel if you wish to do so. And I'm now going to ask the Governance Officer to remove you from this meeting.
Chairman, I can confirm the speakers are removed from the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, I'm now going to very quickly tell you some of the things I've been doing this month. No, I'm not. I'm going to do something else first. I'm going to talk about the land charges team, which is a really nice piece to read out. The land charges team, who are part of the wider governance service, have recently been recognised nationally for their work. The team consists of Maxine Steele, Michael Salter and Louise Harvey, and they were shortlisted as finalists in the 2022 Land Charges Awards for excellence. The nominations for the awards are made by the Council customers, including external solicitors, conveyancers and other external users of the service. Whilst the team didn't win, they were ranked as in the top 10 of 342 councils, which is absolutely brilliant, isn't it? Which is a huge achievement given to the others in the top 10 who were from very large borough councils. Additionally, our team was the only Essex authority to be nominated. The fact that the team was nominated by their customers is a real validation of the efforts being made and the quality of their work. Maxine, I don't know how you'd like to be called, Steele, is actually here tonight, if you'd like to congratulate her. You actually are meant to stand up, and then they can see you. And I'd like to say thank you and very well done for all the work that you've done. And continue to do in ensuring we provide a first-class land charges service. Thank you very much. Now I'll get on to the boring bit about what I've done. The first thing I did, well, one of the things I did was to attend the official opening of the Travelodge Hotel in Victoria Street on the 9th of March. Now, that was amazing. Have you all seen it? I'm sure you have. And it really is a really nice, well, it's a very nice place to visit. So, you know, if you can go and see it, that would be great. And I also had the pleasure of joining, well, Councillor Hensman, Wendy Schmidt, Councillor Pell, I think that was, and myself, we all planted trees for the Queen's Canopy in the various gardens in Halstead and Braintree and Witham, which was also helped by Councillor Kilmartin. And a day that marked the 70th day of the 70th year of the Queen's reign. And each tree has been planted with a plaque to mark and celebrate the occasion. I also had my civic reception on what was an absolutely amazing day, and everybody played Crazy Golf, which they thoroughly enjoyed because it really was a lovely day. I had it at the Rivenhall Oaks, and it's, if you play golf at all, it's a very nice golf course, but it's a very nice venue as well. And the food, I don't think any of us that went could fault it, could they? It was a really good day. So, and I made nearly £1,000 for my charity, so that was brilliant. Apart from that, I've been to the Pheasant at Gestingthorpe, which is well worth a visit if you want someone for a meal. To the Bewes Hamlet Parish Council to celebrate the clerk's retirement, but I don't think she's going to retire. After 40 years of service, I really don't think she'll retire. Incredible Edible, the community project in Earls Cone, where anyone in the village can help themselves to the vegetables that have been grown. And I mean, that's just an amazing, and they're going to open actually a lot more sites. The leader and I went to the town hall, which, if you haven't seen it, lit up for the Ukraine with the blue and the yellow windows was absolutely amazing, wasn't it? Yep, it was really good. Also to the celebration of Catherine Mina Courtauld in Colnengain. This lady was an amazing lady, well ahead of her time, and George did a really good speech about her life. I then went to a commemoration service for the gliders. I hadn't realised that it was the gliders that flew out of the Marks Hall estate. And unfortunately, an awful lot of them were killed. I didn't even know that you had gliders with about 30 people in them. Normally, I just thought they were 1 or 2 people, but they did have bigger gliders. So there were a lot of people there, and that was really good. The chairman of Essex County Council Civic Service. I also went to Braintree Market on Saturday, and that was absolutely amazing, held by the Sun, of course, and the chap that made me a special gluten-free roll. So that was really good. They are prepared to put themselves out an awful lot. I think that was probably about all. So I'm going to ask Councillor Butland if he'd like to make us any statements and announcements now.
Nothing at this stage, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. This motion by Councillor Graham Butland is the expression of support for the people of Ukraine. The motion is set out on pages 5 and 6 of the agenda. And before inviting Councillor Butland to speak on this motion, I can confirm that no amendments have been received and the motion remains as published in the agenda. As Councillor Butland and Councillor Abbott, the proposer and seconder of the motion, are present, this item may proceed. Councillor Butland, can you please formally move your motion? And can I remind you that before you make your speech on your motion, it must be seconded.
I formally move the motion set out on the agenda paper.
I formally second the motion, and I'd like to reserve the right to speak at the end.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. And Councillor James Abbott, you're recorded as the seconder of this motion. And do you wish to speak after Councillor Butland? You're going to do that. Okay. Yes, please. I now invite Councillor Butland to make your speech.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm delighted that this motion is an all-party motion. It has the support of all groups, and I'm delighted that we're able to take that approach. Clearly, over the last month or so, we have all witnessed on television the extraordinary scenes that have gone on in the Ukraine. And I couldn't help but reflect when you were giving your report, Madam Chairman, of how normal life is here and how enjoyable things are, how many people, unfortunately, are not able to enjoy that at this stage. We have, in part 1 of our motion, condemning the unprovoked Russian invasion of Ukraine and to indicate that we stand in solidarity with the people of Ukraine and their family and friends. And I think what has been absolutely certain over the last 4 weeks has been how people, residents within the district, have expressed in a number of ways their strong feelings on this and their wish to support. We clearly, as a council, stand ready to work with partner agencies. According to the UN, more than 3 million people have now fled the Ukraine because of the invasion. Most have gone to neighbouring EU countries, but refugees have started to arrive in the United Kingdom via either the Ukraine Family Scheme or the Homes for Ukraine scheme. The Homes for Ukraine scheme launched on the 14th of March, and the scheme allows people to nominate an individual or family to stay with them rent-free or in another property for a minimum of 6 months. Applications can be made online, and both hosts and refugees will be vetted. The scheme requires the host and guest family to have a named contact who they wish to sponsor. You cannot register for the scheme yet if you do not have a named contact, but there are a number of charities and faith groups who are looking at offering services to match potential sponsors. And when we find out more details of this, we will share it, because I know I and maybe other members have received correspondence from residents who desperately want to be able to help. Clearly, there is a lot of work to be done with partner agencies and our local communities. The Essex Resilience Forum, which came into being during COVID, is now specifically dealing with this issue, and there are a range of work streams which have been set up to manage the response, including ports of entry, housing assurance, health, community support, finance and communications. Madam Chairman, one of the main ports of entry is Stansted and probably will continue to be a major port of entry. A reception hub has been operating there since the 20th of March and is being managed by the Red Cross currently, with support from everyone that is needed. The purpose of the hub is to provide humanitarian assistance and extra support, because many of the people coming will be coming from a system where, or from a place where, quite frankly, they will be extremely distraught and distressed. Checks on housing assurance. Checks will be made to increase assurance around safety for both hosts and guests. And I think it is important that we recognise that there will be some unscrupulous people who will try and benefit from this. And indeed, just before I came out this evening on the BBC, that was an issue about people who want to make use of this to almost sacrifice young children and families who are at risk of falling into the hands of people traffickers. ECC, the County Council, will be managing the background checks on host families, and BDC will take the lead on home checks using our environmental health team. Our environmental health team will be working with other environmental health teams across the county, and we are awaiting further guidance from government on how they would like those checks to be undertaken. There will be other significant demands, both on the health field and also in education. A lot of these families will have young children, and one of the best things we can do is get them into education at the earliest opportunity. We're currently working through the practicalities and processes to make all of this work, including how data is handled, as effective as possible. Finance is still not yet clear. There will be payments to the Council for each person coming in, and there will also be payments per month to sponsors. Clearly, we will not allow any delays in clarifying the bureaucracy to stop the generosity that our members and our representatives, and more important, our residents, want to do. So, Madam Chairman, this is a unique period for us in this country. I have been amazed, as I say, at the response of local residents. Initially, it was a bit haphazard. There were a lot of inappropriate but really kind-hearted gestures, such as the second-hand clothing, which clearly with health issues, etc., was not appropriate. I learnt through this that my Colgate was actually made in Poland, so it really wasn't worth sending that there. But it was all done with the best of intentions. I think now we have a much more appropriate response, and the advice that I've been giving to individuals and through parish councils is that if people do want to help, one of the ways they can do it is to make a donation to the Disasters Emergency Appeal, where the 15 charities that come together can actually use that funding to best advantage, and more importantly are on the ground in the areas where it is most needed. So, Madam Chairman, this motion is easy for us to do. We're sat here, thankfully, in a position where we can look at each other, we can have our disagreements, but but we haven't got bullets and bombs dropping outside. I hope that as a council we will play our part, and all our Essex councils will play the part over the next few months as more and more Ukrainian refugees come here. And I am grateful to my colleagues on the opposite side and all the different groups for their willingness to support a motion from this side, where I really believe we are probably speaking on behalf of at least 99.9% of the residents of Braintree. I so move, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Abbott. Wish to speak.
Chairman, do you want to open the floor up for debate? Councillor Abbott indicated he wished to reserve his rights.
Oh, right, okay. Right, would anyone else like to speak on this subject? Councillor Beavers, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Van Dolken. Same. Right, thank you. Yes, I think we've got everybody now. Yep. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, do you want to call Councillor Beavers?
Yes, Councillor Beavers, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I speak in support of tonight's motion, and really pleased to see it on Council's agenda. I wanted just to briefly talk specifically to item C about work with and support the efforts of our local communities to provide help and comfort to those in need. And in doing so, Madam Chairman, I just wanted to thank the residents and the community groups that have been involved in the Headinghams collection, which has brought together the Headinghams and the kind of rural villages in that area together to fill a complete lorry, working with UK Aid. And we were notified last week that the lorry's now arrived in Moldova, and the collection continues as well, which is providing aid to those most vulnerable, and particularly women and children as well, and working with UK Aid. It's been really specific in the items that have been requested, so we know it's really been put to good use. I then just briefly, and I think actually Councillor Butland, if I may, this evening has probably already answered the question, but I just did want to raise it as it comes from a senior member of our district clergy, and she's just basically saying that we stand by waiting Ukrainian refugees who may arrive in Houston and the surrounding areas as part of the Homes for Ukraine scheme. And she's just saying, what are the local initiatives being provided for welcome and support? And she's just saying that she wants to make sure that she's just joining up the dots at this stage. So I appreciate that more communications will come out, and I guess following tonight's meeting, something will follow this motion. So really supportive of the motion and completely agree and devastated by global affairs. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavers. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I too would like to commend the work of senior members and officers, and I strongly support this motion. And I note too that our website here at the Council has useful references to the Homes for Ukraine scheme, and indeed is giving what I think is very sensible and commonly shared advice that now the practicality is much more about making financial donations, including through the Disasters Emergency Committee. I have a couple of reflections, if I may. Firstly, as has been mentioned, that there is great community support to collect physical donations, and by way of just one example, there were 3 initiatives just in Coggeshall and one that I'm aware of in Stystead. Secondly, I'm not entirely clear from our website if Braintree District Council will be part of the community sponsorship scheme. I hope we might see if we can act as a sponsor for this, albeit in conjunction with Essex County Council. And lastly, I note the positive reference by Councillor Butland to minimising or not allowing bureaucracy to stand in the way. And personally, I would think it would be good if there was some scope to simplify and speed up the visa application and the important safeguarding and security checks procedures so that there isn't delay resulting from that. And finally, I'd just like to say that I am indeed very happy to endorse this motion and recognise the work both of our council and communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Welsh. Councillor Van Dolgen.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I was, just while we were talking, it struck me that my first proper job was with an organisation called the United Nations High Commission for Refugees in Geneva. I won't tell you how many years ago that was, but it was the time of Biafra in Nigeria, which was an appalling time. And the sad thing is, of course, nothing has changed in however many years. To get to the point, I of course fully support this motion, and I'd like to add that I've become aware of a number of families in my area around my Yelham ward, which are in the process of identifying and helping Ukrainian refugees interested in coming to our region through the Homes for Ukraine scheme to offer them places to stay while sadly away from their homes. This level of hospitality, if that's the name, if that's the word, if replicated across Braintree and North Essex, is a commendable sign of the open and welcoming nature of our residents. I hope that we can all agree at that. I've been asked more specifically if BDC might be able to offer some type of location and or teaching facilities for English language. If such a need is indeed identified, this could perhaps be done with some input from existing Ukrainian residents in the district, and I'm sure we could find volunteers to teach English. Such an initiative, if feasible to bring about, could be evidence that the motion actually has some substance to it. I'm not asking for any response, just that consideration be given to the matter. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gilmartin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. For any of you who have ever done any kind of health counselling to people who are very distressed, those who are kindly offering their homes might perhaps want to understand that the people coming to them will cry a lot and they will be despairing, and you may have 6 months of that in your home. You might be able to cope with that, but it's also worth remembering that you might not. And 6 months of little sleep at night and changes of dialect will be straining on you as the householder and on the very distressed people coming. It's just a thought to remember. And whilst I may also say about the English, the churches in Chelmsford do this, and I'm already signed up to converse and help refugees of all sorts. And so far, as I understand it, no Ukrainians requesting such help have asked, but it does exist, and I'm a volunteer on that, but I've not had a refugee yet to be with. So thank you very much. Those are my comments.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kilmartin. Councillor Raymond.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I fully support this motion. Our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Ukraine as they suffer appallingly in this oppression. Unprovoked acts of war by the President of Russia. It's not the people, Madam Chairman and my colleagues, it's the President who started this unjustified invasion. Braintree District has a proud tradition of giving safe refuge to innocent people who caught up in terrible world events. We welcome families from Syria, we have welcomed families from Afghanistan, and we are once again open and ready to offer our support and welcome the families of Ukraine. Madam Chairman, I had a meeting with the faith group over the weekend, and they have started a donation collecting some food, clothing, new clothing, not the old clothing, and hopefully in a week's time we will be sending some aid to Ukraine and the families who are settled in Poland. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Raymond. Thank you, members. Councillor Abbott, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I won't add too much, but just to say I agree with Councillor Butland that it's really important this motion has all group support, and I thank him for setting out the details of the measures to support refugees from what is an illegal and shocking war being waged by Putin's regime on the people of Ukraine. I also agree with him that donations to the Disasters Emergency Committee is one of the most important things we can all do to help directly at the current time. Thanking Councillor Beavis and Walsh for the specific local action communities are taking, they highlighted, and I'm sure members in the Chamber could cite many others, and that is all very valuable work. I fully agree with Councillor Van Dolken in referring to terrible conflicts of the past, and he said history repeats itself. And of course we must not forget that there are other current conflicts ongoing now and very recently in parts of Africa and the Middle East which are producing similar horrendous scenes. The only thing I wanted to add, Madam Chairman, is for those of us of a certain age, post-war baby boomers as we're called, we grew up watching programmes like The World of War, rather scratchy, grainy film. That was in the 1970s as a history of World War II, over 30 years after the war had ended. And I think many of us would have assumed it was a history lesson. And the tragedy now is that we are seeing very similar scenes happening in Ukraine in the year 2022. And it really emphasises the shocking nature of what's going on, and however much we can do to help is never going to be enough, but we must try. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott. Thank you, members. I would like to invite Councillor Butland as the proposer of the motion to close the debate.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to thank members who have taken part. I should have also said, although I think I did in the note I sent out to members, that as an authority we were very quickly off the ball in terms of had we any financial commitments, etc., with the Russian and Belarus, and we haven't, but we will continue to remain vigilant on those items. Last week I did forward, I say last week, Thursday or Friday, I forwarded the Resilience Forum full thing to members. I undertake to do that as this proceeds. Things are changing. There's a little frustration, I know, from some members of the public that we haven't got the answers. I think it is important when we do give answers that they are correct and not what we think might be the situation. So I do understand the frustration of some people who desperately do want to help, but we're not in a position to do that. I do take the point. I think the issue around visas is something which, and I speak personally now, I don't think has enhanced this country. That's all I want to say, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butland. I'll now put this motion to the vote. Members, the motion as set out on the agenda has been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands for all those in favour, please? That's unanimous and the motion is approved. Right. Number 7, changes to the Appointments Committee. Members, please be reminded that for this item we will be referring to the addendum report, which was circulated prior to the meeting. The addendum report replaces the original report published on pages 7 to 9 of the agenda. And please may I ask Councillor Butland, as the leader of the council, to introduce the report and move the recommendation. And please can I remind you that before you make your speech, your recommendation must be moved and seconded.
I so move, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Butland has moved the recommendation as set out on page 7 of the agenda. Please.
Madam Chairman.
I hadn't finished. Right. I have to hang on now.
You just need to ask
Thank
Councillor
you, Councillor.
Cunningham.
Do you reserve your wish to speak?
Sorry, Madam Chairman, reserve right. All due patience.
I'd now like to ask Councillor Butland to speak on this matter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members will all be aware that our current Chief Exec, Andy Wright, has given notice of his intention to retire later this year, and therefore we need to move towards appointing a new Chief Executive. My view on the appointment of a Chief Executive is that it's in the interests of both the authority and whoever may be appointed to know that they have the support of all political groupings around. I think the concept which some authorities do of the lead party or the administration doing the appointment actually puts any successful candidate in an invidious position should the electorate decide that they wish to have a different type of administration. And I think particularly given that we are now in our last year leading up to 2023, that is even more important in this case. So the original intention was that as we have in our constitution, the leader of the opposition and the chairman of the Performance Management Scrutiny Committee, Mick Radley from the Halstead Residents Association, would join the administration members in forming the appointments panel. I felt it appropriate, as we have a third political grouping, that of the Labour Party, that we should also invite the Labour Party to participate. And that was where we were. When the dates were done, Mick Radley informed us that he would not be able to make a number of dates, and I was keen that we would make progress as quickly as we could on this. And I'm very grateful that Jackie Pell, as the leader of the HRA, agreed that she would join that, so that we have the three group leaders. That requires, however, Council to remove the requirement to have the chairman of the Performance Management Scrutiny Committee there, which I have to say Councillor Radley has agreed to, so there is nothing there. So it's a rather long paper, but it says, please, could we make that amendment that we won't have the chairman of the Performance Management Committee, but that the Appointments Committee will be 3 cabinet members, which will be Councillors Cunningham, Spray and Van Dolken, together with Councillor Abbott, Councillor Mrs Pell, Councillor David Mann, and the committee chaired by myself. I so move, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Do any members wish to speak on this item? Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, just briefly to say I fully support the principle that all groups should be represented in the a Chief Executive's recruitment process. Obviously, it's the most senior role in the Council, and for the reasons Councillor Butland said. I just wonder, going forward, whether we need to sort of future-proof the constitutional wording around this to accommodate that fact, and also the fact that the PMB chairman obviously could change in the future. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott.
I think we have a developing democracy group likely to be sometime in the future about tidying up. So through you, Madam Chairman, could I ask our Managing Officer Kim Cole to reflect on the suggestion made by Councillor Abbott, whether it's necessary, if so, what could be done? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham, did you wish to speak?
Nothing else to add, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Butland, as the proposer of the recommendation, would you like to reply to any of the speeches or?
Nothing to add, Madam Chairman.
Okay. No, he doesn't. Right, thank you, members. The recommendations set out on page 7 of the agenda have been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Right, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Right, the next item on the agenda, item number 8, is the Horizon 120, the plaza. Members, this item is set out on pages 10 to 12 of the agenda and is for noting only. No decision of full council is required this evening on this matter. And please can I ask Councillor Butland, the leader of the council, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members will be aware that we very rarely use the special urgency provisions in this council, but it was necessary in this case. The plaza is expected to be completed in July 2022 and progress is extremely good. Therefore, it was necessary to consider, clearly, the plaza will need furniture and ICT services, etc. And we were made aware that the connection and furniture orders had a lead-in time of between 90 and 120 days, which would not have fitted in with the completion of the plaza. And so I was asked by officers if I would consider using the special urgency provision. I read the papers up before me. I was satisfied that this was an appropriate way to go forward, and therefore the recommendation, Madam Chairman, in 2.1 is to note the decision taken by myself on the 15th of February relating to Horizon 120, the plaza, the details of which are set out in para 3.7. I would hasten to add there are no financial implications arising out of this report. All the financial implications arising from the decision were considered and are set out within that decision report, which has been published, and therefore I move that we take note of my actions, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Do any other members wish to speak on this subject? Councillor Abbott. Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's more of a question, really, and maybe this could be taken offline with a note to members. It was around the comment at the top of page 11 where it says the plaza building at Horizon 120 will be managed by the council and be used by council staff as well as tenants of the building and visitors. Do we have any information on sort of what the long-term intention there is as to whether it is sort of ad hoc use or is it a department moving there, that type of thing?
I also hesitated when I rang that. It's ad hoc use for meetings and that sort of thing. We're not shipping any part out to there. It will be a hub which businesses and organisations will be able to use. Okay?
Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Butland, would you like to reply any more? No. And this, as I've advised, this report is for noting only. Please can I take it that the report is noted? Thank you, members. We'll now deal with agenda item number 9, Cabinet's report to full council. Before opening this item, I will remind members that they may put up to 2 questions to the Cabinet, which will be responded to by the Leader or the relevant Cabinet member. Councillor Abbott, as the Leader of the Opposition, may put up to 4 questions to the Cabinet. Members may not ask supplementary questions, and questions should relate to the functions of the Leader or a Cabinet member, the powers and duties of the Council, or matters pertaining to the district. No statements may be made by councillors during this session. Where a response cannot be given during the meeting, a written answer will be issued within 10 working days. A period of 1 hour is normally allowed for this item. and I think that's probably okay. Yeah. So who would like? Wait a minute.
Madam Chairman, if we could just invite Councillor Butland to introduce the report.
So can I now invite Councillor Butland as Leader of the Council to introduce the report?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to add one thing to the Essex Leaders and Chief Executives meeting on 2.2, where I outlined to members how the 15 authority leaders were intending to move forward on work on the levelling up paper and devolution, the establishment of 3 groups. Each one of those groups will be chaired by a leader of one of the upper tier authorities, so that will either be the leader of the County Council, the leader of Thurrock Unitary Authority and the leader of Southend Unitary Authority. And the groups will also then be manned by leaders of district and boroughs as well. Following a request from both leaders of Southend and Thurrock, who have elections this coming May, it was agreed that the groups would not start their work until after those elections, and then we'll feed back later on. This is not time, because the importance of this will be getting it right, not getting it quick. And so I just want to let members know, in case they were saying, hang on, what work is going on at the moment? There is no work going on at the moment. This work will start in May after the elections. And of course, it's quite possible that we will have some new leaders around the county at that stage, who knows. But that, just to give members confidence that there isn't a lot of work going on behind closed doors, etc. And I undertake to keep members here fully informed of what happens as we go along. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Do members have any questions for Councillor Butland or any other member of the Cabinet? If you wish to speak, please indicate. Councillor Johnson. Councillor Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We're a long way apart. I'm glad you saw me. Can I ask, is the Cabinet member for Planning able to shed any light on the story in last week's House of the Gazette concerning a delay to the medical centre in Sybil Headingham? As a ward member, I was concerned to hear about this and would like to alleviate any misconceptions or concerns, particularly as shared by some on social media. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs. Spray.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Yes, I saw the article in the Gazette, and it was also pointed out to me that it was on their online website. I think the headline, delay to medical centre, was a little misleading, and I wouldn't want you or anyone else to be particularly alarmed by it. One medical group who are taking on the site, it's quite true to say they made an error in their planning application. It was to do with the ownership of the site, and in essence they ticked a yes box instead of a no box, which related to how the ownership stood at the time the application was submitted. Owing to planning protocols, it isn't possible to simply cross out an error and then tick the right box. They were asked quite correctly to resubmit the application, which they have done. Everything is on track. There will be little, if any, delay in this coming to the Planning Committee. So, as I say, I wouldn't want anybody to be unduly worried about it. I hope that sets minds at rest. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mrs. Spray. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. A question for Gabrielle Spray. Is the Cabinet member aware of the intentions of Rivernorth Airfield waste site developers in Dover to open up the unclassified Woodhouse Lane as a second access for the waste site for traffic including heavy abnormal loads. Will BDC Planning be reminding Essex County Council as the determined planning authority of the need to stick to the principle that all waste site traffic must use the dedicated haul road from the A120 and not the roads through villages such as Silverend and Rivenhall? Unless you agree that it is up to the developers to ensure that the haul road and bridges over the River Blackwater have all the necessary capacity so that local roads and lanes are not used. Thank you. One last thing, I'd like to thank Gabriel Spray for giving us the dates for the Silverend consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll take the last point. Yes, I'm very pleased that we have got a proposed timeline for the Silverend conservation review, which I know is well overdue. Officers acknowledge that. But yes, it's good to have some dates now, and I hope we can progress with that as planned. With regards to the Rivenhall incinerator, as Councillor Wright will no doubt have seen in my report, there was a recent decision by Essex County Council at a committee meeting that Indover have to build out this incinerator according to the original planning permission that was granted. They cannot pick and choose what bits they do and don't want to do. And that, Chairman, was a very clear message that came from County Council. So if they want to do anything different, at the moment they can't unless they put in for additional planning applications, and that applies to any buildings on the site, any access, anything they want to do. It's also just worth pointing out to members, and it is in my report, Indover have advised the Planning Inspectorate that they are considering going down the NSIP route. That's the Nationally Significant Infrastructure Process route. We don't, I think, have confirmation at the moment that that's what they're going to do, but they are certainly talking to the Inspectorate about it. That means that they would go directly to the Planning Inspectorate for a decision on this site, and that would then in turn go to the Secretary of State, and it would in effect bypass the local planning process. Now, as I say, it's something that they are seriously considering doing, which I don't think we regard as being helpful. But I hope that answers your question. They have been given a clear message. They cannot do anything other than what they have originally been given planning permission for. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor
Can I quickly come back? Can I? Indover have put in a plan application.
Hang on. Can you just hang on a second? No, I'm sorry. You really don't have the opportunity to raise another question, but I'm sure Councillor Abbott might raise it for you. Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Question to Cabinet Member Councillor Gabriel Spray first. I'm sure she would, or hopefully she would agree, that when developments come forward, wherever they are, the local community which is hosting that potential development, i.e. it has that development within its boundaries, should be considered for Section 106 monies to ameliorate the development. If she does agree with that, can she explain why Rivenhall Parish never gets any Section 106 payments from developments within its boundaries, whether it be commercial or housing, and that has gone back many, many years, including most recently a recommendation for a housing development which she's aware of, where a specific scheme identified in the Open Spaces Action Plan was adjacent to the development, and yet still the recommendation is that the money should go to Whittam. Can she explain that dilemma, please?
Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Following the question which was asked at last full council by, it was a joint question actually from Councillor Mrs Weeks and Councillor Hicks, I think, I did send out, and it only went out last week, a very detailed reply as to where we stood with Section 106 monies for that development and why the money went where it did. As to previous consultations or lack of consultations, if there is any other information I can get for you, I will do so. But officers follow the protocol very closely with Section 106 monies. As I know you are aware, there is a review due to start fairly soon on the 106 process. I am hoping to lead a member reference group on that, and it will be looking at all aspects of 106, and officers are conducting an internal review on that as well. So there will be some more information coming forward on that. If I have anything specific to your question tonight, I will follow up with a written reply for you. But as I say, a very comprehensive response went out from me last week. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Councillor Wright.
James is still because he runs.
Oh, you've got, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members will be glad to know I haven't got the full four tonight. I've got a question for Cabinet Member Councillor Wendy Schmidt, but I can two questions, but I can roll them into one. First of all, to thank her and officers for progressing the issue which Councillor Wright and I have raised regarding the A12. We're really just a congratulations and thanks to say thank you very much for the new bins and for the excellent work being done in clearing up what was basically a linear fly tip along the A12. My question relates to two matters. Firstly, is she aware of some concerns which have been expressed to me, and I've got personal experience of the quality of the clear recycling sacks? They appear to be splitting very easily. A number of residents have raised this. And the second question is she aware of the recent work done by Essex County Council in Tearcroft Wood in Rivenhall, which is an ancient woodland, which caused a lot of local concern to the extent of tree felling? And would she agree that it's really important we work with the County Council and other landowners to make sure that the management of our ancient woodlands is as sensitive as possible? Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, just before Councillor Schmidt answers, I'll leave her with the bags. I do have information about Tearcroft Wood, which I think would be useful to share.
Yes,
but you may want to take Councillor Mrs. Schmidt first on the bags.
Councillor Mrs. Schmidt, can you hear us?
I can indeed, Madam Chairman. In fact, the recycling sacks is under Councillor Van Dolken's portfolio now. And so if Councillor Butland can give information on the wood, then I'm a little superfluous to requirements at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Van Dolken.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Abbott, thank you for your question. I am not aware of this. Would you be so kind as to send me some details where the issue is and the extent of it as far as you know, and we will, of course, look into it and get back to you.
Councillor Butland.
Thank you. I don't know why I thought this question might come up. So I did ask, and I appreciate really it's a county council question, but I think as you've raised it, it's only fair you should get a response. And I am no expert on this, so I am going to refer to the answers which I've been given. The Essex Forest Initiative basically are responsible for the management of Tearcroft Wood, and I believe there have been meetings over a number of years between the County Council and Councillor Abbott, and indeed I'm told that some plans in relation to consultations have been amended as a result of input from Councillor Abbott. The works themselves at Tearcroft Wood are, in the opinion of the professional opinion of officers at Essex County Council and that of the Forestry Commission and the ECC ecologists, classed as light coppicing. It was decided not to implement the full coppicing operation that the Forestry Commission approved after local views were taken on board in December 2019 when we consulted with Councillor Abbott. The timber that is down, and I did see a picture of it because Councillor Abbott posted it on Facebook. The timber will not be moved until ground conditions are firm enough to limit any damage or compaction of the soil. We intend for this is Essex County Council, we intend for this to be soon, but it may remain in situ until summer to avoid driving over the flowering plants throughout spring. There is no financial driver for the forestry works at Tearcroft. I think there have been some suggestions from some people that this was a financially driven thing. So there is no financial driver at Tearcroft or at any of the other ECC woodlands. The management of woodlands is a cost to Essex County Council in that its preparation and implementation costs more than is earned through the sales of timber. But it's deemed by the County Council to be a worthwhile cost in regard to increasing habitat and biodiversity through a traditional coppicing regime. In our opinion, or in Essex County Council's opinion, we are actively improving the health and long-term future of an ancient woodland site rather than destroying it, improving its attractiveness and biodiversity value. The work is funded by the Forestry Commission, which has approved the plans, overseen by a professional forester, Lindsay Allen. That, I hope, Madam Chairman, at least puts Essex County Council's viewpoint on that issue.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butland. Councillor Abbott.
I will exercise my fourth question. Is Councillor Butland aware that this light coppicing extracted 100 tonnes of timber from the wood, including trees over 120 years old? And would he welcome me responding to each of those points, which I disagree with profoundly in turn? And I'm afraid to say I believe the County Council is misinforming the public.
Madam Chairman, I'm open to whatever Councillor Abbott sends me, and I will respond in, I'm sure, the same way as he will respond to correspondence that I send to him. As I say, I'm not an expert on this, but I do think there is probably a different viewpoint from Councillor Abbott than from other people who are equally as qualified, if not more qualified, than Councillor Abbott himself. I don't claim any expertise in this area. It's one of the things I have in my county council portfolio, which I'm interested in, etc., but I don't have the same level of expertise as Councillor Abbott, or, as I say, very importantly, people who work within the Forestry Commission and people like that. But I'm very happy if he wants to drop me a note on that, to take up any points that he would like to come back on.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Right, Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My question is to Councillor Bowers, responsible for housing assets and skills, of course. I'd like to thank you, Councillor Bowers, for your written request and response to my inquiry about the number of Afghan refugees, in which you said, I think, 2 households have been accommodated in Braintree and Witham, and at that time, a third was being processed. My question, and it touches on an issue that my colleague Councillor Beavis raised this evening, and Councillor Kilmartin touched on the same issue. I assume we are indeed open to helping to integrate these families into local communities, for example, with the support of local faith communities. And perhaps this may also be relevant when some refugees come from Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Bowers.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I think the answer to the first point is yes. In regards to the second point connected to Ukraine, Councillor Butland has given you the update in as far as the position is at the moment, as far as we know. Obviously, that is ongoing, and we are clarifying points going forward. And as soon as we can update members any further on that, we will do so. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Beavis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and my question is to the Cabinet Member for Planning, Councillor Gabrielle Spray. It follows on the question I asked at last full council, if I may, about the planning forums, which I thought we were going to be debating at tonight's meeting. I think that was the note I read in the Cabinet Minute. So I just wondered really what the hold-up is and why we're still waiting to debate the issue. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Beavis. A paper on the planning form will be coming to full council. I imagine. I don't want to give a date that then turns out to be wrong, but I imagine it will possibly be the June one. I have spoken to officers about the possibility, which I know you raised previously, of members having some sight first of proposals, and I think that will be possible, so that everybody has a chance to have a look and see what is proposed before I actually present a paper on it. It has, there has been quite a lot of discussion with governance about this. There are certain criteria, rules and regulations which are going to have to be put in place before we do this. It's, as you know, a very new process for this authority, so we need to make sure we get it right. But it won't be long in coming forward, I can assure you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Councillor Kilmartin.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would like to exercise my right for two questions, two different Cabinet members. The first is for Councillor Cunningham. Can I say that as Mayor of Witham and a BDC Central Ward Councillor, how pleased I and the Town Council are that procurement has started on the Witham Town Centre improvements. Thank you for this. We all look forward to the work starting shortly and are pleased also with all the relationship improvements. Lots to look forward to, so perhaps Councillor Cunningham will elaborate on some of the future ones.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and grateful to Councillor Mrs Carmartin for her question. Absolutely right. Yes, we agreed at Cabinet 2 weeks ago to start the procurement works to secure a contractor to deliver long-awaited town centre improvements in Witham. We hope to have that process completed by the end of spring. A public consultation period will take place on the basis of current proposals to ensure what we aim to deliver with our partners is in line with the high standard that local residents expect. I also acknowledge her point about working relationships, and I think we remain very grateful to the positive working relationship we have with Essex County Council. Yes, we're very positive for that relationship as well, but particularly in this instance, Witham Town Council. And we, as the delivery authority on town centre improvements, have looked to see how we can deliver a scheme that best serves the requests of the Witham community, working with Essex County Council to explore options around the Malden Road junction being one example, and thank the Town Clerk, the Mayor of Witham, of course, and Councillor Lager and the political team at Witham. Of course, this is only one such project we hope to be bringing forward in Witham in the next civic year. Both my colleagues, Councillor Bowers and Councillor Ritchie, will be bringing business cases for approval relating to the long-awaited Maltings Lane Community Centre and, of course, the Witham Enterprise Centre. So, exciting year ahead, hopefully, for the town of Witham. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you very much. May I do my second one?
Yeah, I was just going to say your second one.
This is for Councillor Spray, and I myself have found news on the railway situation because there's a big placard out about the railway, so I won't ask that one now. But I would quite like an update, if we can, on why the land at Gershwin Boulevard has been refused for our 70-bed care home currently. I was on the Witham Town Planning and a presentation to council, and we were very happy with what this specialist developer wants to bring to Gershwin Boulevard in the way of a 70-bed care and nursing home. And so I really would like to pursue this with Councillor Spray, and thank you for your messages so far.
Thank you, Councillor Kilmartin. Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, Councillor Kilmartin, I was about to say I did respond to you over the weekend, this inquiry. As this is a live application and I'm on the planning committee, I am very limited in what I'm able to say and I'm going to say, and I'm not going to expand very much more on the factual information that I gave you in my email. The reasons for the delay were set out clearly in my email to you, including a letter that has gone to the developer from Chris Padgey, which he gave me permission to send to you. There really is absolutely nothing more I can add, because I don't want to compromise my position should this application come to the Planning Committee, which it may well do. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spree. Councillor Wrench.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My question is to Councillor Ritchie. I think all members would agree that one of the most debated topics at the most recent budget setting was regarding the Councillor Community Grant Scheme. So my question was whether Councillor Ritchie had any information or would know the total spend for this civic year with the Councillor Community Grant Scheme. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Wrench, for your question. Indeed, it was a hot topic for the budget setting period. Actually, I'm pleased to say that out of the 73,500 allocated in the year 2021-22, we've spent just short of £64,000 amongst our communities. That does leave an underspend of just over £9,600, which we've also agreed to roll over into next year. So actually, given some outstanding amounts from the year before too, there's some healthy numbers for us to spend. And again, it's one of those schemes that it's a great scheme, and one which we should be looking to try and spend as much as we can amongst our communities. So a heartfelt plea for you all for years 22-23. Let's see if we can get all of this spent amongst our communities in the next year or so. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Councillor Swear.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As for a question for Councillor Cunningham, I welcome the confirmation that the procurement process has started on town centre improvement works in Halstead, and praise the excellent partnership work that is being done with Halstead Town Council too. Could I ask what the next steps forward are, and what else Braintree District Council are doing to support post-pandemic recovery in the town of Halstead? As we all know, the economic health of which is so important to so many of our residents, not just in the town, but importantly in the villages and the communities that surround it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Swear, for that question. Well, in terms of a timeline, it's similar to the one for the town of Witham. Procurement process is being undertaken at the moment with a view to approving a contractor in the summer, and hopefully after a relatively short mobilisation period, active works should start in the autumn. Again, in line with the approach we're taking in Witham, there will be a consultation period, and local members, both at district and the town council, will be involved with that. I'd just once again like to echo Councillor Swear's comments. Again, we're very grateful for the positive working relationship we have with Halstead Town Council on this. I know we have one member present and other members joining us through other means, and of course support of the Mayor himself, Councillor Radley. In terms of other support, we actively look to work with the Town Council to see if we can host or support events in the town. Halstead's unique charm and character, unfortunately, sometimes does not always aid this, bearing in mind the main trunk road goes through the town, and of course that has an impact on the carriageway and the highway and the parking spaces, which does provide some limitations. We continue to explore opportunities, but we'll also continue to see if we can provide virtual support, online promotion of events and activities in Halstead. One of the key focuses of the Council over this last 2 difficult years has been the speedy dispatch and support and advice given to the business communities, and I'm very pleased that this District Council has been one of the best performing in the county in terms of the speed of dispatch of government grants. We have supported that through our own initiatives, one of them being the grants given to shops to improve their frontage and to help them through this period, and in line with our businesses across our towns and our villages, Halstead has benefited from that. But as part of our ongoing economic strategy to support and the recovery period, we'll continue to look at all measures we can to support our towns and village centres. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Right. Nobody else have a question? Councillor McGee.
It's not a question, Chairman. It's, I think there have been some things I'd like to add to my report because they happened after I wrote it, and I think it's important. Mm-hmm. Two bits of good news and one on the CARF scheme, which is mentioned in my report. Firstly, some good news on ICT. The BDC venue site went live. The venue site is where people can book accommodation at the Innovation Centre, the iConstruct, and when Plaza goes live, that'll be the online booking system for the Plaza. Town hall booking system's gone live so that weddings and the like can all use that online system. This is all part of our digital strategy coming into force. So there's two of our online systems which will make it way easier for our residents to get access to some of our facilities. That's one bit of good news. The other one that Tracy Headford is quite clear that I should announce, and that is that Essex County Council have approved us to be a family-friendly employer. There was some focus groups, and then we were certified to be chartered to be a family-friendly employer. That's more than just working from home. It's about carers. It's about the way we treat our staff who've got disabilities. It's a whole raft of things. And so we're now chartered as being certified to be family-friendly. And I think that's, you would expect nothing less of a council like us to be seen to be able to be to take people on regardless of the circumstances at home. You may have read now a bit of sort of catch up on CARF, or the grant system. If you read the Times this morning, and it probably was in other newspapers, the press are making great play of the fact that councils have not actually, there's been 1.6 billion of government money, not a single, they're saying not a single penny has been distributed to the actual recipient of this grant money. And there's some truth in that, but the way in which the government distributed that grant, they left it discretionary to the councils to decide how they were going to give that fund. We got £2.5 million available. We went out in my report, I think it said we had 5 or 6 applications. I can update you where we are now, and it's been very difficult for 2 reasons. One is we're trying to identify people that were missed by other methods of grant funding. So there was no criteria led from the government that said, would you go and find left-handed shoemakers or right-handed glove makers, for instance. So there's none of that direction by the government. So we're having to decide what the criteria might be and who we're looking for. So it's a bit needle in a haystack a little bit. We've sent out 75 applications for CARF, and only 42 of those have responded. Comms team are doing what they can to push this week on all social media channels, but the criteria do state they must be occupied, not in receipt of the expanded retail discount, and have been adversely affected by COVID. Well, that's a bit loose in the sense of how do people prove that they've been adversely affected by COVID. So there is some truth in it, but we are pushing very hard indeed to come up with some criteria to get that money out to our residents. But other authorities are finding the same difficulty. So just, you know, when you read it in the press, it's not that the finance officers or the officers of this authority are sitting on their hands doing nothing. They're pushing absolutely as hard as they can to get that money out to residents. And we hope by the time they come back, I'll give you better news and we have some better criteria and we get more applications. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor McGee. Councillor Wright.
Thank you. Second question to Councillor Spray. Is she aware that Endeavour, the developer of the incinerator at Rivenhall, have put in a planning application to vary the conditions of their approval, and that is to open up a second access via Woodhouse Lane And before they've got that, or that's been determined, they're putting a second application to vary conditions to use that for heavy and abnormal loads, which will need to come through either Rivenhall and Witham or Silver End and Cressing, which those roads are not capable of taking that type of vehicles. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Wright, and congratulations on getting your follow-up question in right at the end there. No, I don't believe I am aware that they've put another application in for a second access. Just sort of bear in mind that we are, this is Essex County Council's. It's within their remit. We are consultees on that, and obviously can give considerable feedback on it. But no, I'm not aware. As I said, they have had a very clear message that they've got to build this out as per their original application. So it will be up to county to consider a new application. This authority objected to the incinerator, and I don't believe we would be particularly in favour of seeing very large construction lorries going down narrow country lanes. But we will have to see how that application falls with county. And of course, if Indova do decide to go down the NSIP route, that's another matter altogether. It'll all go straight to the Inspectorate and then to the Secretary of State. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. I think that's. Anybody else have a question at all? No? No? Right. So as there's no further business items on the agenda, this concludes our business for the meeting of full council. Before closing the meeting, can I please remind you that the next meeting of full council is the council's AGM, and this will be held on the 25th of April. The webcast of this meeting will be published on the council's YouTube channel as soon as possible. And members, if you have any feedback following this evening's meeting, please can you provide this directly to Emma Wisby or Kim Cole, who can consider it for future council meetings. Thank you, members, for your attendance and participation this evening, and to those watching on the council's YouTube channel. And I close this meeting of the full council at 9 minutes to 9. Oh, pretty good, isn't it?